Yo, peace, beautiful people. Gene Williams here, and welcome to Unbreakable Souls. I'm one of the hosts, and bringing my man KC repping Coach G.
Yo, man, what's up?
What's
What's
going
up?
on, brother? Look at
Kansas
that
City
Christmas
in the
jersey.
house.
Yeah, you see that
Kansas
Christmas
City.
jersey right now.
Yeah, man. You know I got to rep. You know I got to rep my people. What's up, my
Man,
man? How you doing?
man, pretty good. Glad to slow down for a minute and get to sit down and talk.
Yeah, yeah. So I had a good week
How
too,
about
man. I
you?
just getting back from some vacation and wrapping up some things, jumping into some new things. So I'm excited, man.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, congratulations on the new stuff, brother.
Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited, man. Unbreakable Souls, people. This is episode 5. We're doing an
All right.
emotional mental health recap. We had these topics individually a couple weeks ago, but we wanted to come back, circle back, and recap them and combine because we know men really need to know these things. And I got to do this. I got to do this, Gene. Shout
Okay.
out to my boys at Smoother Image. In particular, my
Yeah,
boy
yeah.
Eric is normally my barber, but he was a little tied up today. I came last minute, but my boy Krayshawn jumped right in, took care of your boy today.
Yeah.
So I'm now
Christmas,
crispy.
Christmas.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know how we roll. I gotta be like you, bro.
Hey, I'm trying to catch up to you, brother. I'm trying to catch up to you.
So yeah, I just want to shout out to Smoother Image. But yeah, I'm ready to go, man. You got anything you want to say before we jump into this?
Yeah. I've definitely enjoyed the last few shows. The last the last one was so funny though. But I love pushing the image, pushing the energy of everybody getting out and doing the necessary tests, going to the doctor. Being comfortable, bending over, and spreading cheeks. Exactly.
Man, that's crazy though. That's crazy. That was last week was a great show.
Yeah,
I listened to it on the boat actually, man. So
nice.
that was pretty dope to get that, and I'm excited about what we're doing, man. So
Yeah. Yeah, we're unlocking people's minds with this stuff. Thankfully, time to
you're
create a
doing
new
what?
paradigm. We're unlocking people's minds.
Oh yeah, that's what it's about, man.
Yeah, right,
That's what it's
exactly.
about. Well, so while emotional health and mental health are both interconnected, we've learned over the course of these last couple of weeks there's some distinct differences between the two. So we really wanted to highlight that today,
Right.
so that men understand there is emotional health and there's mental health, and again they interconnect, but they are distinctly different. So we wanted to really
Right.
highlight and focus that today. So I guess the number one would be nature of focus, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
emotional health primarily focuses on an individual's ability to manage and express emotions effectively. So I think we had a great discussion a few weeks
Right.
on managing your and expressing your emotions effectively. Anything else you want to jump on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's unfortunate though that as it pertains to emotions with men, society itself teaches a unhealthy uh, emotional health lifestyle
Right,
for
right.
men. They tell us not to express emotions, and it's like so. That's why men are they die earlier. There's higher suicide rate because they don't have
An
a
outlet.
perspective, right? An outlet and a perspective that allows them to express themselves freely. Women are allowed. You expect a woman to express her emotions. It may not always be healthy, but they're going to express them
Right,
regardless,
right,
for the
right.
most part. But men are supposed to hold them in, and that's why we eventually implode. So,
Well, I think
absolutely,
we've learned that stoic is out, right?
yeah,
being
right,
being
exactly,
stoic, that's not cool. That's not,
right,
that's a false number that we've been taught from childhood, that
right,
strength, if you really want to see a strong man, that's a man who is emotional. And we're not talking about, when we're
right,
talking about emotional health, we're not talking about that dude who is all over the place, has
right,
the highs and lows, but we're talking about that man
right,
that learns over time to manage his emotions
right.
and brings his highs and lows down to in
More
here.
balance, yeah.
Right,
The middle
right.
ground, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
understanding and that's strength. So
And also
it,
understanding that being vulnerable is not a weakness. Like we've
yeah,
been
come on, man.
taught that being vulnerable, and I mean, as father figures and fathers, you learn that the best way to help a child become a better version of themselves is by you being vulnerable enough
Exactly,
to
exactly.
help them. They don't people don't gravitate towards people who are hard and harsh and always pushing you away. They gravitate towards a person who recognizes, okay, I can be vulnerable, so you'll be vulnerable with me. People mirror what you present to them.
Right, right. That's good. Good point, man. It's a really good point. I mean, we've learned that emotional health involves understanding and regulating emotions, as we just said. But
Right,
a big one you just jumped into is developing empathy, and
right,
maintaining healthy relationships. That's all part of emotional health. That father
right,
mentoring and showing empathy for his son, that it's
right,
okay to feel. He skins
right,
his knee out learning how to ride his bike. That's not the time to teach him to be hard.
right,
That's the time to show him empathy and show him love. That when he feels pain, it's okay to express himself. I
right,
think that's a healthy boundary. At some point, you can say, "Okay, man, it's time to man
right,
up right
right,
there." But initially, let that little young king feel, man. He's human,
right,
right?
right. Yeah, yeah. And never push. Anytime they're feeling emotions, feeling emotions, never tell them that. You know, uh, basically, you shouldn't feel anything. That you feel something, so you need to explore that. You know what I mean?
Right,
And unpack it, um, so that it doesn't become a burden forever. You know what I'm saying? If you're able to unpack it right then in the moment, then it's easier long term to deal with other things because you had that example as a child.
right, right. Which goes right into what I said about maintaining healthy relationships. That father
Right,
son relationship. So many father son relationships are estranged. Um, because it was unhealthy.
right,
Emotions weren't taught, emotions weren't received. That moves over into our friendship relationships. And we always
right,
got to be hard. That moves over into our romantic relationships, and we show
right.
just the emotion of anger and frustration. All the negative emotions, and we never show the positive emotions. So
Right,
just as an emotionally healthy man, we got to be well rounded and show all of them.
right.
So,
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
well, on the other hand, though, mental health encompasses a broader spectrum of psychological well-being, including cognitive functioning. You want to speak into that?
Right. So as you said, mental health is totally different. It could you may need some kind of talk therapy or even possibly medication to help balance out the chemicals in your body.
Come on,
I was
man.
actually
Come
having a
on.
I was actually having a conversation. It was probably with family in the last few days. We were talking about the the physiology of mental health and mental health issues. And like, and a lot of people don't understand it, like literally a imbalance of chemicals in the body
Right.
causes mental illness, which is why they provide medicine to help us balance it out. It provides the body with the chemical that the body no longer produces for whatever reason, and helps them have more of a balance chemically, which also um, allows a mental health balance as well.
That's good, man. Good point. There's always a reason. I think
Right.
especially black men are considered to be angry men, but there's always a reason. And we talked, I think, a couple weeks ago about post-traumatic slave syndrome. Right?
Yeah.
That's
Man, yeah.
taboo. We want to talk about
Right.
PTSD
Right.
all the time,
Right.
but if you're a black person, male or female, you're also dealing
Right.
with, you might be a veteran of war, or you might
Right.
just be like all of us. We all went through COVID, so you're a veteran of life
Right.
itself.
Right.
So that gives you PTSD, the trauma of that.
Right.
But in addition to being a man of color or woman of color, you're dealing with post-traumatic slave syndrome. So as you just talked
Right.
about, that affects your cognitive functioning and your perception. It alters and
Right.
changes behavior, your whole
Right.
overall psychological state, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and man, I mean, if we're gonna talk about being melanated. You
Come
know, when we see a police officer, regardless of where
on,
your
come on.
status, you straighten up and you slow down. In
Yep.
the car, if you driving, you see one pass you, you like, I'm not even gonna look at this person. You know what I mean? Yeah, being a person of color in this police state country, uh,
Oh, don't say
it's
state because it's the whole country, bro.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Police state country. But and even when I mean, man, so we talk about like from a political standpoint, when you have politicians creating laws and things of that nature that directly uh, negatively affect people who look like us. Now, I mean, we got that as well. That's part of the PTSD. I mean, we live with PTSS and PTSD every day because there's a system created to uh, to keep us marginalized.
Right, right.
So just that knowledge and knowing that once you figure out the game, they're gonna switch it up on you. That's how it goes. That's why we gotta have our own community. But that's another show
That's a whole other
altogether.
topic. Yeah, because when you jump into that, you get me thinking about Sleepy Joe, who's in office now.
Right.
And I think a lot of black people don't realize that Sleepy Joe is the architect of the 1990 crime bill. So if you want to talk
Hmm.
about affecting, post-traumatic slave syndrome, there's no greater piece of legislation that has devastated, utterly devastated the black community, like the 1990
Yep.
crime bill that,
Yep.
our current president is the architect of, developed it,
Right.
and it
Right.
destroyed the black family. And we're seeing the ramifications of that now. I mean, it was Bill Clinton, what people would say is the first black president, is the one who got it pushed through Congress, but it was
No.
Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, that was the architect
Hmm.
of that. So
Right. Yeah.
that's just crazy.
Yeah. Bill Clinton is not black.
No, no.
I was annoyed when people used to say that. I'm like, so because he walks with a little bit of swag and he plays the saxophone, he's black now.
Right.
Wait a
Really,
minute. You mean that
really.
Sax didn't give him his black card? Because that's what everybody claimed was he was playing the saxophone and he
Access
got his
denied.
black card and all along
Denied.
those lines. Because everybody wants to be an honorary brother or an honorary
No,
sister, not knowing the pains that
Nope.
we have to go through to
no,
have these
no.
titles and everything. But they want to be honorary and all along those lines. So we're not letting him
Right.
have the honorary title.
No, Mark, we're denying that card. We're denying that card. I mean, and then his wife
Right.
showed the
Exactly.
true colors there.
Hard
So,
pass.
uh-oh.
Yep.
Hey, mom.
Oh, Ma's on here. I see that.
Mm.
Oh, she makes a
Yeah.
great point about that. The slave mentality from, she just
Right.
watched Underground the other day and she sees the imprint. Wow, that's powerful.
Right.
I don't know if I told y'all this, gentlemen, before I jumped on and when you were having the pre-call, because a lot of times the pre-call is a lot longer than it was today and everything. But we had an event yesterday, and even though it was a woman that was speaking, it was something that plays into what y'all were talking about. But Disha Phil, y'all was here at the Hayti Center, which is where I'm at today and everything, and she was talking
Okay.
about the Black Church. She's written a book that's about the secret lives, I think, of church women and everything. But she was talking about how when she was a youngster, she remembers getting sent off to church because her mother and her grandmother had been divorced. So, in that emotional hell, sometimes those ministers would be kind of like shunning them because that was seen as a
Right.
scarlet letter, for lack of a better term, and
Right.
everything. But they
Right.
would send her off to church to get the praise of God, but they didn't want
Right.
the women coming to the church because they were afraid that that might uh, not be a scar on the church and all along those lines. So I just wanted y'all takes about that because that's some of that emotional healing that we have to do with as well. She was
Right.
also talking about something that I know we all can relate to. Unfortunately, we can relate to it too well because she was also talking about the power of food and how sometimes those women in our community and even some of the guys will be able to burn and they want it done their way. And if it's not done their way, you bring the guy by or the woman by without being done that way, then they're going to be highly critical. So like you got a certain way to cook your chicken, and you try to cook it a different way, they're gonna be like, nah, that ain't what we do over here.
Yeah.
Right. And don't put no raisins in the potato salad.
Right.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. And,
Yeah.
Mark, there's nothing like church hurt, man.
Yeah,
There's
Yeah.
exactly.
nothing you come out, especially in the black community, scarring someone for life. There's nothing like church hurt. And I think the thing that being a minister, former minister, for me, the thing that hurts with that is it's a reflection on God, and it should be a reflection on people.
Right.
The man that hurt you, the woman that hurt you, the community that hurt you. But we make that all encompassing, and we look at God as the one that hurt you, and He is the one that did
Right.
that to us. So that's the part that really breaks my heart, and it's only Him, in my opinion. Again, just my thought, my opinion. It's only Him that can heal that church hurt. So because
Right.
these are representatives of Him that have hurt you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely will stain a person's perspective,
Right.
perception of church and religion as a whole. But I agree that it definitely should not be a mark on God, quote unquote,
Right.
uh,
Right.
as a, as opposed to a reflection of the people. Because I mean, people are people. People be people.
Right.
So
People be people, and I
and
love that.
if they in church, if they in the office, it don't matter. If you're in the grocery store, people are gonna be people, regardless of how saved and sanctified they may be. People, and it's just the fact of the matter. So I really, to me, it would be nice if we kind of looked at it like that, as
Right.
opposed to okay, because they're this or they're that, then they're higher up. No, we all equal,
Right. Right. We all put our pants on the same way.
man, one foot at a time. Unless
Yeah.
you sit down and put your legs all the way up to your chest, and anyway,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You got Mark
I
with
can't
you.
do
You changing the
it.
rating today. It was Mark last week.
I just put my pants on. What are we talking about?
Next week we
What?
know. Okay, it'll be your turn next week. You'll probably mention something, Coach G, about a chandelier or something. You're gonna go for the chandelier conversation
I'll
next week.
bring it. I'll bring it. So,
Oh,
well, yeah. So, regarding emotional mental health, I'm gonna switch gears on us here.
Yeah.
So, scope of assessment. So,
right,
assessing emotional health typically involves evaluating an individual's emotional well-being, social interactions, and ability to cope with stress. What do you think about that?
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it examines factors like emotional resilience, self-awareness, emotional intelligence. Where do those land with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, keep going, brother.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. So for me, it's really helped me learn to be more self-aware
Mhm.
of
Yeah,
my emotions. So I mean, if we're going to talk about emotional health, I think you've got to be self-aware. So it's really made me focus on and dial in and think more on what are my responses going to be? What are my thoughts going to be? How
Right.
am I going to feel about this? And taking control and taking ownership of those thoughts and those feelings. Um,
right.
I think that goes into emotional intelligence, that you
Yeah,
are responsible for what you say and do. I mean, you can't control the other side of the street, obviously.
right,
So if my intentions are good and pure and I express myself with good intentions and it's received on the other end, with malice or ill will or whatever the feeling is, and then I can restate it and say, hey, that's not how I felt, that's not what I was saying, that's not what I
right,
was thinking, then I can only control that. So I've learned to really become more self-aware on
right,
my own side of the street, focus on what's important to me. So
right. Oh, yeah,
And
agreed.
Gene and Coach G,
Yeah,
along those same lines, do you sometimes feel that we give a lot of credit to education and the things that are taught, and definitely some of the morals that are taught in some of our institutions, like I mentioned the church earlier and everything. But I sometimes get frustrated because I think that that's something that isn't paid enough attention to, even by society and family. So I just wanted to the two of you, since y'all are both mentors and involved in that space, do you think enough of the people in society pay enough attention to that kind of notion of emotional health? Because I mean, it's something that we talk a lot about, but I don't know that we always definitely give it the kind of knowledge and the kind of credit that it needs. And I don't know that it's taught as much as it should be, even within our own family structures. But I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts around that.
yeah.
go ahead, brother.
I was gonna say, man. Actually, the funny thing is, if you really think about it, within the last maybe 10 years, we actually started talking about emotional intelligence. So it's like it's virtually a new concept as it pertains to society. So I agree that no, there's not a lot of information out there about it, and definitely as a community we don't we don't practice it because we don't know, and
Right.
when we do know, we don't implement it enough. I think that needs to be something that we dive deep in regularly as a community because it's not, especially as colored people, we don't talk about emotional health. If somebody starts being sad too long, something always wrong with her. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Well, I'm just saying, like, but we talk about it in a negative sense. We don't um, try to step back and utilize empathy and try to understand. It's more like because it's something that's uncomfortable to us, we tend to push it away as opposed to embracing and trying to understand.
Well, and I just to your point, I had to, as you're talking, I'm thinking I had to back up a little bit because I'm like, we're throwing out what we might think is a common or simple word. And I know in the beginning you
Right,
said it's new, um, and it is. I would say, especially in the Black community. But what
right,
what is emotional intelligence? I think a lot of people probably don't even understand what that even
right,
means. And when we're
right,
talking about emotional intelligence, that refers to the ability to recognize, to understand, and manage our own emotions and the emotions of others. It
right.
means it involves being aware of our own feelings and how they influence
Mhm.
our thoughts and behavior, as well as being able to empathize with and understand the emotions of others. That's so important. I mean,
Yeah.
emotional intelligence also encompasses skills such as what we talked about before: self regulation, social
Hmm.
awareness, effective communication. I
Right,
mean, it plays a crucial role in building and maintaining relationships, making sound decisions, and managing stress and conflict. So,
right.
emotional intelligence is a big thing that we haven't really spent a lot of time in. So, bro, actually, we need to put that down because I mean that's a point we need to go into and spend a whole show on.
I agree. I agree. Yep. Yeah, my
What do you
mom and
think?
I actually discussed it on one show, but I definitely hitting it again from a different angle would be
Yeah,
vastly important.
I think for men that might be a good point for us just to spend a whole episode on.
Right.
Mark, you chomping at the bit on that?
Oh yeah, always chopping it a bit.
Well,
I
spit that
get it.
wisdom on us, man. Spit it up.
Huh?
Spit that wisdom on us.
I'm trying to think of it. You just got to get it going because, like you said, too often we're not thinking about that, and we're not thinking about that emotional connection. And sometimes we're even afraid to talk about it when we know that it's an important part of our relationships. Whether you've got kids,
Right.
like I said, I don't have any, but I do have my two nephews, and a lot of times we are afraid to let our feelings out or along those lines. I know that on this show in the past we talked about how too often, particularly us male folks, like to internalize things, and we know that that's not good
Right.
for our health, even
Right.
our physical health, and all along
Right.
those lines. But a lot of times, we'll get frustrated or we'll get upset or have some emotional things that are we're going through. It might even be something that is impacting us, whether it's at work, whether it's in our relationships, rather than talking it out and sharing that emotional tie. We want to pull it in and pull it in, and a lot of times that's why
Right.
we have issues with our health, and that's where some of those things. And I think
Right.
Gene, you can speak to this. With some of our folks that are developing also in society, they're developing it because they're keeping it pinned inside and not
Inside, right?
actually talking about it and everything. And that's why there is definitely some of these health issues that are in
Right.
our society
Yep.
because we're too busy pinning it up, and that can literally eat inside our body. That's what it
Yeah.
also is. It's the body
Exactly.
getting eating itself up because we're not releasing these things that we need to
Right.
release.
That's good.
And that's
That's
and
good.
that's also what cancer is.
Right.
Cancer is emotions that have manifested in the body to make the body fight against itself.
Right.
I
Mm,
mean, you know, so that's why it's so important for us to be emotionally intelligent and know how to process and unpack emotions in a healthy manner. 'Cause we're good, we're great. Society teaches us how to be destructive with our emotions. That's why you see men create uh, uh, commit crimes more often, violent crimes, as men most of the time because of a lack of emotional intelligence, not processing things in a proper manner. And or you have I mean, that's another show, but a system that creates, such disparity that, people go out and rob or kill for whatever, for money to survive. But again, that's another story right there. But emotional intelligence is vastly
Mhm.
important. If we could process our emotions in a happy, in a healthy way, then we wouldn't die so quickly. Or because stress is the number one killer, silent killer,
Yeah.
and it creates in the body cancers and, like you said, ulcers and other things that end up killing us way before our time.
Man, that's such a good point, bro. Such a good point. And I think it's good. I'm really excited for the pivot we just did and diving into that. So I'm a pivot again because I think, especially as men, we do this all the time, but we don't have a name and a face to it. When we mentioned emotional resilience, do we know what
Yeah,
that really means? I think we walk it out every day, but do we really understand what that means? So it's the ability to adapt and bounce back from challenging or stressful situations that men, I mean, literally do every day. It
right,
involves having the capacity to cope with and recover from adversity,
right,
setbacks, and emotional distress. I mean,
right,
emotional resilience allows individuals to maintain a positive outlet, remain focused, and effectively navigate through difficult circumstances. I can't talk today. Difficult circumstances. Still on the boat. It doesn't mean that a person won't experience negative emotions or face obstacles, but
right,
rather they have the ability to effectively manage and recover from those experiences. So
right,
men literally do that every day. I mean, don't we? We walk
right.
that out every day, but
Mhm.
now you have an
Part of the business.
understanding of what that actually is.
Right.
That's a
Yep.
superpower.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a major tool right there. To constructively process emotions and then able to turn it into something positive. Man, that's a beautiful thing. That's alchemy right there. Turning one thing into a higher version of itself. Yeah.
Right. Right. Look at Mark. He chomping on the bit again.
No, I'm just hearing y'all breaking down all this powerful knowledge, and I'm going like, this is just going on, and that's what we got to do is have that knowledge and that knowledge base. But too often we're not doing that knowledge base, and we're afraid to speak these things that we need to speak. And a lot of times we just
Right.
want to sit there and hide, and sometimes we're also afraid to share some of our emotions. I mean, what's the thing that we oftentimes many men, I'm not saying all men, but many men are afraid to reveal their emotions because, as you know, Coach G, as a coach and everything, there are some folks that'll be like, "Nah, you can't be sharing your emotions because that guy is going to think you a punk or something along those lines." And we know that that is not a fair
Right.
assessment. But you got some people out there, particularly among the millennials, but I've even seen some people in their 60s and 70s that still have that mindset where they're thinking
Right.
that if they share their emotions, that means that they are not as true of a man and everything. And I don't know about you two gentlemen, but I have found many a woman will respect you if you actually are willing to share that knowledge and to share those
Right.
feelings that you've got. They don't want a man that is going to be hiding their emotions and not
Right.
letting them know what's going on in their internal feelings and everything. I mean, they may not want you to cry at every little thing. You don't have to
Right.
sit there and go to
Don't get
every movie.
excessive with that.
You don't have to go to
That
you don't have
dog
to
was
go to
so
every movie.
pretty. Uh,
You don't have to go to every movie and sit there and be watching the soap opera that your lady friend might be watching or watching the crime dramas and be like dropping
right.
your tears at every time. But you can share
Right.
some of your thoughts about what is going on, or even if you're reading a sensitive book or a book that really touches your soul, you don't have to cry at every part of it. But she does
Right.
like it if you are willing to share what you've learned and how it has impacted you emotionally.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah. And that,
good,
and
man. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Exactly. And that's what you call emotional availability. Like when
Right.
you're not able uh, to even express emotions in a healthy way to your partner or period, then there's a wall always going to be put up because once you start to feel something, you automatically retract.
Hmm.
So allowing, like you said, allowing yourself to be vulnerable and
Right.
speaking those things to your
So good.
partner freely and openly will actually bring you together. But again, Have a balance. Don't be crying about everything. Don't be crying about everything. Brandon, his mama was shot.
Oh, come on, man! I cried in Lion King, so no,
Did
man.
I
But that,
cry like it?
man, you knew you cried.
I
Whatever,
didn't cry. Not Lion King. It was another movie though. I'll remember it later.
bruh. You know when Mufasa died, you cried.
I didn't cry. I was like,
Come on.
Mufasa,
Yeah, you everybody.
I got
Mufasa.
you, got you.
He
Somebody
knows he
catch
was
him.
in tears. I don't know why he tried to deny. He was in tears the whole time that animal was going in, and he was going like, "No, not that one, not that one." But look, Gene, go ahead and admit it, because I know you had that moment where you were upset at
Come
the
on.
Wizard of Oz when they got the witch. Go ahead and admit it. You know you were crying
Oh,
in tears and everything along those lines. You had that moment of tears. You go
I
like,
was
"No,
happy they killed her.
I was
I
happy
was
too.
happy they killed her.
Yeah,
Like drop another house on her just to make sure
yeah.
she's dead.
Right, right. Because you know the crazy people, you got to shoot them 3 or 4 times.
You know, you got man. We got to do a show about horror movies. That would be
Oh,
funny.
yeah, that'll be fun.
But yeah, like man, I swear to God, you have to cut off their head, cut their bodies into little pieces, and put them in vastly different places.
And burn them or something, man.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Like with Jason would have been dead a long time ago with me. It would have been one movie. I would have chopped his head off and put it somewhere buried, or I'd have it, and then cut his
Disfigured
body
him
up and
and
put it
burned him.
somewhere else. I'm
Right, right.
telling you. Yeah, his
would you
body
have
gonna be
done the
burned. I
same
got his
thing?
head.
Would you have done the same thing to what's your girl that caused all kinds of havoc in the horror world? So you know you were crying good and well when you saw what Carrie was going through. Don't try to go there. Everything. You know you were crying good. Yeah, I just think myself, but you know good and well you were crying when you saw what Carrie was going through.
They all gonna
No,
laugh at me.
I was
They all
mad.
gonna
I
laugh
was
at me.
mad. I was mad. I was like, I want her to do that faster. What's taking you so long?
Right,
What's taking you
right,
so long? Kill everybody. You got the
right.
power to do it. Kill them all.
And she did. She
And,
did.
and when she did, I cried tears of joy.
Did you have those
No,
crocodile tears?
but guys, what's funny is that I'm glad we had a moment to laugh, but do we realize all these things, the result, we want to talk about mental health assessment, the impact that all that has, holding all that stuff in has on our mental health. I
Right.
mean, it involves a comprehensive evaluation of an individual's cognitive, emotional, and behavioral functioning. It includes
Yeah.
diagnosing mental disorders such as anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, and accessing overall psychological well-being. You were talking about this earlier, Gene. Um,
Right.
if we don't take care of that emotional health, Mark, you just talked about, then it moves from this space into a greater, bigger space
Right.
into mental. And then when it's into that mental space, that's when we start seeing these other things where
Right.
cognitive behavior, emotional behavior, um, mental disorders, anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, and your overall psychological well-being is affected. So what do you guys think on that?
That makes a lot of sense, and a
Absolutely.
lot of times, like you just alluded to, it's not just the emotional health, but it can, and I mentioned the physical health, but like you said, it can also impact that emotional health as well, and that's another thing that we don't talk enough about and everything, because we sometimes think of them as being differentiated, but they are very closely related. But we don't always want to see that. We want to try to act as if they're brand new, but there's definitely parts of it that we got to have that conversation as well.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
Yep. And emotional issues unresolved further cause mental health issues.
Right.
They
There we
they
go.
they bleed
There
into
we
one
go.
another.
There we go.
Once those emotions, once you don't have control over them, they take on a life of their own, which is
Mhm.
generally mental health issues and or physical disorders. So yeah, we have to unpack often.
Let's actually, that I think is a really good point. Really good point.
Hmm.
So when we say unpack often,
Yep.
what, like for you personally, both of you guys, what are some ways that you unpack um, the emotional so that it doesn't transition into mental? I mean, and I know for
Right.
men and women of color, you can't just unpack being black or being brown.
Right.
So there's got to be ways to cope with and manage the stress
I
and the
mean, but
anxiety of
yeah,
that.
I kind of alluded to it earlier because one of the things that we do, and unfortunately we do it too well in our community, is sometimes in order to unpack or to deal with our emotions, we will sometimes use a crush to do it and everything. And I kind of mentioned to it earlier and everything when I was making that joke and that reference about food and the importance of food in our
Hmm.
culture. But I'm sure you know definitely, Gene, how many times do we sit there and we are having an emotional moment? Maybe it's at 10 o'clock or whatever, and we run straight to the refrigerator knowing good and well we don't need that 18th
Right.
Twinkie or all along
Right.
those lines. Or if you are a
Right.
drinker, you might go grab that cold one, and you just had three cold ones watching the NBA game, and all along those lines, and then you're sitting there going like, "Do I really need this extra malt liquor or whatever you're drinking to
Right.
satisfy you?" So sometimes there is definitely that notion of emotional drinking, and it doesn't have to be an alcoholic drink. You can have an emotional
Right.
drink with something like I've joked with y'all before about my love of sweet tea. So you can have a emotional need for sweet tea or
Right.
candy or even
Or
a
sugar
good old
hit.
fashioned soda and everything. And definitely there's that emotional eating and everything because a lot of people will, get that emotional satisfaction by whatever that thing is that is their slight addiction, for lack of a better term, and everything along those lines. But Coach, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that because I know that even some of the athletes, after a good game, if they don't want to deal with their frustration over losing or the euphoria of winning, are probably hitting that Twinkies or that burger spot more often than they need to versus dealing with the emotion that the results created.
Well, I think we pride ourselves in being transparent on this show.
Right.
So for me, yeah, man. I mean, November, December, which we just came out of, used to be the most exciting time of the year for me. I'm big on
Right.
my birthday's November 5th. Then you got Thanksgiving. One of my daughters that passed is a few days after my birthday. So celebrating that, being sad, but also celebrating that. Then you move into Thanksgiving. Then you move into, I have another granddaughter whose birthday is the 1st of December, the first week of December. And then you move into Christmas. And then
Right.
traditionally for me, I would stop working around the 15th. I was self-employed and be on kind of sabbatical the last 2 weeks of the year into the first week of the new year. But
Right.
because of the things that have happened to me over the last 3 to 4 years, I'm no longer in that place. So for me this year, and I think even back to the year before, that was me.
Hmm.
November, December, I'm sad. There's no sun out anymore. We're at winter time. That seasonal depression kicks in. But now I have life and trauma depression, anxiety that kicks in, all this emotional distress. So yeah,
Right.
that was me. So the first year it was me doing a lot of drinking. We
Hmm.
did a show on that a couple weeks
Hmm.
ago.
Right.
Yeah.
But this past year it was eating. So
Hmm.
I've literally
Hmm.
gained 15, 20 pounds. Remember, Gene, we talked about this.
Right.
Gained
Right.
15, 20 pounds doing exactly what Mark just talked about.
Right.
Knowing I didn't need that
Emotional
midnight
consumption.
snack. Right. I didn't need that food. I wasn't hungry.
You weren't
Right.
hungry at all. I know I've gone out
Full
evening
consumption.
that I wasn't hungry, but just really quickly, because one of your fellow fans and everything brought up something that we oftentimes, and we talked about it on this show before, because when we're thinking about those addictions and how we use them to play into our society and into how we're coping, Gabe brought up a thing that I know I've been guilty of, and I'll admit, because like I said, we're being vulnerable here, what I've been guilty of. And this one really, talk about somebody stepping on your foot and like even grinding down on the foot and everything. I'm just going to be honest and everything. But yeah, I'm going to admit it. I've been guilty of relationship addiction and everything along those lines. So yeah, okay, you just stepped all over my toes because I know
Good
that I
point.
have definitely been guilty of wanting to be in a relationship, even though I might not have been prepared for the relationship and
Right.
had some emotional things that I needed to deal with, but I wanted to be in it so much that I was rushing into it, even though I knew that those that I was rushing into were not good for me and all along those
Right.
lines. And then that space. So that relationship addiction, yeah, Gage just stepped all over my foot. My foot is up. I might have to go get we got health stuff here. Somebody has to go get one of those band-aids and wrap my foot up. 'Cause she just stepped all along my foot and all along
Good
those
tap
lines.
dance
Yeah,
on your foot.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Yes,
gonna be
sir.
over here hobbling in a minute because he just stepped all over my foot because I know I've been guilty of that. Just really quickly, I
Right.
know this is a slight pivot and everything. I knew there was a reason I liked you, Coach G, and everything. You are a fellow sign of my brother, and even though we have a uh, dislike of the certain teams, because I am a Minnesota Vikings fan and Malik is a Chicago Bears fan,
Come
but he is
on.
a fellow water sign. So, like you, he is a Scorpio. So I knew there was a reason I liked you, Coach G, and everything. So it's that Cancer Scorpio bond that we got going on. So I just had
There
to
we
share
go.
that.
There we go.
Yeah. What's your birthday, Mark?
July 1.
June 23rd.
All right, so we got the whole Cancer Scorpio thing going.
Right, exactly. Whole water sign thing going. That's crazy.
See,
Well,
y'all
it
better
makes
than me.
sense.
Y'all better than me. I
Yeah,
don't know anything about all that stuff.
yeah. It makes sense though how because again water signs are more aware of their emotions than other particular signs. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
Yes,
well,
that is
speak a little
very
more
true.
into that. Educate me, because I'm clueless on that stuff.
Yeah. So the water sign is generally feminine, quote
Mhm,
unquote.
mhm.
It's a sign of free flowing emotion.
Okay.
You know, so and Cancer, I believe is
It's Cancer,
immutable.
Scorpio, and Pisces. Those are the three water
Right.
signs. And
Three
as I
water
like to
signs.
say, and this actually ties back to what we were talking about with relationship addiction. The way I describe it is Pisces is a little bit more mysterious in their ways and all along those lines. That being one of the water signs. Scorpios are known for having a little bit of a uh, and I'll just put it out there since we do sometimes get a little bit saucy and everything. Cancer Scorpios are known for being a little bit on the freaky and wild side. I like to think of Cancers as being the quiet version of Scorpio. So we have the same reputation, but we are just a
Right.
little bit more discreet about it, a little bit more quiet. We are just as bad as you Scorpios. We just don't put it out as
If
much as
not
y'all.
worse. If not worse.
Huh? Am I right, James?
if not worse.
It's not exactly.
Did Mark just
Yeah.
push the envelope again? The rating from PG now to
Right.
13?
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. But I want to go back though. Something that you were saying about the emotional eating and emotional drinking.
Sure, sure.
It was beautiful that both of you realized, so that's emotional intelligence, that you were consuming something
Way to
because
tie
of
that together.
emotional. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing that you knew that because I guarantee you most people don't recognize that.
Mhm.
I'm eating, I'm drinking because I'm emotional.
Right.
Um, and just to have that self awareness is where it starts to help you navigate better. Um, so just that awareness. Oh man, I'm drinking because
No,
I'm
no, I get
emotional
I
right
get where you're going with that because I'm going to tease Coach G about something else because I
What?
imagine that no matter what the results are, because you do have in that Kansas City shirt and everything, but I imagine that there's going to be a lot of people this coming weekend, a week from tomorrow, that depending on the results of
now.
the game are probably going to be pulling on their emotional ties and everything. Because another place that we sometimes get pulled into our emotional game and even go into those emotional kind of like crutches, emotional crutches, is our games and everything. So if you are a diehard Kansas City fan, and if your team is kicking the heck out of San Francisco, you will probably be maybe grabbing that chicken wing a little bit too much time because you're elated and everything. But then on the other side, if San Francisco somehow manages to beat y'all and everything, you might also grab that chicken wing one too many times because you could be sitting there going like, "Wait a minute, I'm pissed at this. We're down 2 touchdowns, and this is not supposed to be happening. Let me go get that fourth chicken wing."
Right,
Wow.
and another beer,
Yeah.
another beer.
Man, I got to tell y'all a quick story. So, yeah, I'm a diehard Chief. But I felt like I got punked last week in the last game. I was actually on the boat. I was on vacation
Mm,
on the boat, headed to, I think we had just left the Bahamas and we were open sea. No, it was the day that we were going to the Bahamas. So we went to the Bahamas and came back to the boat early so that we could get to the game. But so here I am in my gear thinking, oh, this is going to be exciting. They got it out on the pool deck, on the big
yeah.
screen, full of people everywhere, food and drink available, all this stuff. We're having a good time. Kansas City kicks off, which I was surprised at, but okay. We're giving
Mm,
the Ravens the ball first to score, but okay, we believe in our defense. And we get
right.
3 and out.
Mhm.
They punt back to us. We methodically march down the field and score the first touchdown of the game. And we know statistically in the postseason, the team that scores the first touchdown or first points statistically has a higher chance of winning. So I immediately jump up and celebrate. I'm like, number one, we stop them on their first drive, 3 and out.
Mhm.
And then we take up, I think it was 8.5 minutes or something on a long
Yeah.
drive and score not a field goal, but a touchdown. So putting a
Mhm.
stamp on the game from the get go. I jump up and celebrate. As I'm celebrating, I look around, I'm like, oh, I got 15, 20 people yelling and screaming with me. There's a couple people got on jerseys and hats. Okay.
Yeah.
But then we kick back off and the Ravens get the ball. They march down, throw the long pass. We should have had him sacked, but he throws the long pass, gets a touchdown. Um, and I saw the impact of the Raven fans.
Mm.
OMG. It was like a ship full of Raven fans. So I
No.
got punked, man. I had to, you talking about emotional intelligence. I was like, I better keep my celebration
Yourself.
You
because
about
I'm
ready to
looking at
get
these
you
big old
about ready to get
brothers.
bum rushed? You about
Right.
ready to get bum
Right.
rushed on the face?
Yeah. Looking at these big old brothers over here on my right that are screaming over the Ravens fans. Now they're eyeing at me. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, let me just sit down. Chill.
Man, you
Crazy.
gotta keep celebrating, man. Don't be scared now. Hey, you Chiefs bad, boy.
Well, it was fun
Gotta talk
after the
to
game. After the
right.
game, all of them had to come my way, and I made my way to some of them so that they
Yeah.
see make my presence known. I'm like, hey, what's up? I
But
don't hear you now.
you got an example of emotional intelligence to Gene's point because you knew that you did not want to get, like you said, definitely punked and maybe even beat down. So you had the
Yeah,
emotional wherewithal and the mental wherewithal to know not to overly cheer until you knew the
right. Yeah.
results of the game
right,
and that you were safe and all along those
right,
lines. Because if
Right.
right.
you'd done it too early and the results had gone differently, then you would have been
Yeah.
like,
Well.
wait a minute,
Well,
I'm not trying to jump into this fray.
and then I had to
Right.
display some emotional intelligence again to be humble. I could have gloated and threw it in their face, but okay. The game spoke for itself. I don't need to say anything else.
Wait a minute. You didn't use, speaking of emotional intelligence, you didn't use the favorite word that every sports team uses, including the team that has played against the other team. And I know it aggravates everybody, particularly those that are fans of sport. Like I said, I was not a big athlete, but I did run track briefly in high school and have always followed various sports, including track, tennis, and football. But I don't know about you, Coach G, but if I hear another fan to come out there and say, it'll be all right. Y'all will come back next year. I'm going like that is the oldest line in history. But everybody says it every year. They've already said it to the Baltimore Ravens. They've already said it to the Detroit Lions. It's like, don't worry, everything's gonna be all right next year. And sometimes if you've got a team that is always next year, like my Minnesota Vikings and my Milwaukee Brewers, you're like, well, I'm tired of next year because it's been 20 years or 30 years of next year.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't even know what to say on that, Mark. I'm sorry, man. We've been, a slice of heaven this last 5, 6 years here in Kansas City. So after a 50-year drought, so I
uh,
get that. So I'm riding the wave right now, bro.
You got to ride the wave
Ride
because,
the
like I said,
wave.
y'all had that drought, and there have been some baseball teams that had that drought as well. I think there was a couple of teams in the Midwest that had a drought that they finally ended it, like Cincinnati and some of the other teams and all along
Right.
those lines.
Detroit.
So I get it when those droughts end and everything. So you're just so
Right.
glad that the drought is over. Quick
That's right.
question, and this comes back to emotional intelligence. It kind of plays into our conversation, but not totally. I was having an argument yesterday with a close friend of mine. It's actually another podcast networker person and everything. But since we kind of pivoted slightly to sports, and we'll get back to the main topic. But I was arguing with him, speaking of emotional intelligence, because he's of the opinion that the NBA players rule the NBA. And that I'm going like, no, the owners at the end of the day have to make some of these decisions, including load management and everything. But he's like, no, the players are in control. I'm like, the players are in control of nothing. It's the owners that are in control. But you as a coach, I want to know your thoughts. Or am I off base? Because he's like, the NBA players rule the game. LeBron James gets to sit out because he wants to sit out. I'm going like, one, he's doing some good negotiations, and two, the owners are the ones that get to make these final decisions. But like I said, he give me some pushback. But you're in the coaching game and have been for a while,
Yeah.
Coach
Well,
G. Am I right?
Gene is too. So I'm interested to hear what he has to say. But to me, you follow the money trail. I
Exactly.
mean,
Right.
the power resides in who holds the money.
Yeah.
So players are the ones that are visible, and we think
Right.
they have power, but it's the money trail. Now, on the flip side of that, I do think we should show some emotional intelligence there as a player in those positions because they do hold a lot of power because they are
Right.
visible.
Right.
Right.
I would love to see
They're the
some of our
face.
athletes back like in the 40s and 50s address and attack some of these social injustice situations. We did it, in the George Floyd thing, and then it's kind of phased out again.
Right.
Right.
When you have a
Right.
platform that you have complete control, and the best way to affect change in situations like that, again, you follow the money trail. Yes, the owners have all the money, but the players are visible, and if the players start saying things and doing things and shutting things down, it affects the owner's money, which then
Right.
affects change.
Right.
You want to see change affect affect that owner's money.
Yep.
Right. I mean, Kaepernick, I believe it there.
Exactly.
Kaepernick, what's the brother's name? Kyrie, not Kyrie.
Colin
Was it
Kaepernick.
Kyrie?
Colin, yeah, yeah,
Colin.
Well, but also in the NBA, was it Kyrie
Oh,
who
Kyrie
spoke
Irving.
out?
Kyrie
Yeah.
Irving.
Okay.
right.
Yeah. All right. Oh, all right, guys. Our time is going down. Let's get back to the topic.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah,
All
I'm
right.
glad you said that. Which I was going to skip 3 and jump right into 4 because
Yeah.
if we
Right.
run out of
We
time, I
can
want to
go a
make
little bit
sure.
over if we need to, since I pivoted a little bit. So we can go a little bit over because there's nothing until like about 5:15 or 5:30 in
Okay.
terms of the network. So we don't usually like to do that, but I can pivot a little bit if y'all need a little bit extra time.
Well, we jump right into
Okay.
4 because I want to talk about treatment approaches because
Right.
I think that's important. We talked about a lot of things, but we got to talk about some treatment. So, the treatment approaches for emotional health and mental health also may differ. I mean, because again, we just talked about that they're different. They interact, but they're very different.
Right.
So,
Right.
emotional health often involves therapeutic interventions like counseling. You talked about talk therapy. That was huge for me.
Yeah.
Support groups and
Me too.
techniques to enhance emotional resilience and well-being. So I'll just pause there. What do you guys think about some of those, or are there other ones that are important to you guys that resonated with you?
Absolutely. I agree about the talk therapy, counseling. Also, journaling is a big thing.
Yes.
You need to be able to identify with your emotions, be able to write them out. And that way, and what that does is it induces a self awareness. When you can write your feelings out on paper, you're literally translating from emotion to right. Exactly,
Right.
you're getting it out of you.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like journaling is a big thing.
You
Um,
you mentioned journaling. There's one that I used to do regularly. I was saying that I need to get back to doing it again, so maybe I'll do it. Well,
Mhm.
it's starting to be evening, so it won't be today, and I'd be lying to you fellas if I told you it'd be today. But one of the good ways that we can also get out there is I am a big believer in stepping outside and enjoying nature. There is actually a pond
Oh
not
yeah.
that far from my house
Yeah,
and everything, and I'm sure there are geese, and every once in a while you might see a turtle, and of course there's a trail that you can walk around and all along those lines. So sometimes just that having peace of mind to observe the rest of society. And when I say the rest of society, I don't mean the rest of the people's society, but the other things that are out there in this
right,
world with us, like the plants and the trees, and of course
right,
the animals and everything, can also help ground us. That can help us have that peace of mind that is part of the emotional grounding and everything along those lines. Because there's even up here
right,
at one of those lakes that I used to walk, and I'm going to try to get back to walking at it on a regular basis. But just having that peace of mind and observing that and smelling the flowers and smelling some of the
Yeah.
other things that
That's
are out
true.
fresh
there
air,
is
right.
very much a part of that emotional grounding, because it's a time for you to reflect, not just on, to me it's a time to reflect on three things. One, yourself and your inner self, which is what we've been talking about this evening and
Right,
everything, but also connecting yourself to the most high or God or whatever
right,
people want to call him
right,
and everything along
right,
those lines. So it's that chance to have that
exactly.
connection to God, force, and all along those lines. And the other part that is important to me, at least I think it is in my life, and I think it is in your life, Gene, and even you, Coach G, is it's a chance to communicate. No, they don't come back and talk to me, and I don't hear their voices, but to communicate with those ancestors that have passed on. Because while you're out there walking,
Yes,
you can be over there
yes,
saying, in my case, Grandma Molly, what did you think about what I did today? How is the things going
right,
in that life? Baba Chuck Davis,
yes,
who was a mentor here and was a pioneer dancer. How did you think we handled life over here at the Cultural Center and just life in general? So it's a chance to relate to those folks and to talk to them And like I
Yeah.
said, and sometimes whether it's a dream or whether it's your reflection on them, there is, in my mind, a form of communications. And I'm not saying you got to hear their voices and everything, even though some people
Right,
may have that connection. They hear their
right,
voices, but it's
right. I
still a
mean, you
chance
feel
to
it.
at least resonate with them.
Right. That's
Right.
powerful.
And actually, I want to add to the walking in nature. For me, sometimes like when I'm really stressed out, I will find a tree and sit under it and watch God and other creatures. You know what I'm saying? Like they may
Wow.
be, like you said, they may be geese in the water or birds flying around or whatever. I watch them, and it's like if you really pay attention, they don't seem to struggle for anything. You know, they are in tune. They do naturally certain things, and they always seem to be in a state of peace. I mean,
Hey,
life is chaotic as it may be, but just seeing like, have you ever like watched an ant pile?
hmm
That is fascinating to me.
they're
And
totally
watching how
fascinating. And sometimes they're even
yeah,
more in tune than we think. I've said it on other
yes,
podcasts, but not on this podcast here and everything. But when you look at 9/11 and you look at some of the other things that have happened in society, I actually think that in some ways, and I'm not saying that everybody, including some of the religious people, I know that that's part of your background, Coach G, but in some ways they are more in tune than we are because I have
Right.
felt
oh
that if you
yeah,
go back to 9/11, if you go back to even COVID, there were times that they saw what was going on and they either ducked it, like the 9/11 happened way back 23
right,
years ago and everything. They were like, I'm out of here. These humans are
Right.
going crazy. I'm not going to be anywhere near y'all because y'all about to go crazy.
right,
So you couldn't find a bird or a pigeon, including places that the pigeons were
right,
popular, like in New York, because it's like God sent them a message. Humans about to be
right,
really stupid. Y'all might want to go into hiding and
Right.
everything.
Right.
And then the flip side happened when COVID happened because we were pinned up. So God was like,
right.
hey, the humans are pinned up. Go out there and
Y'all
have a
have
good old
fun,
time.
right? I agree. Yep. And I love how nature adapts. Like it's natural how nature adapts to any change that transpires. We're the ones who have the issue because we have the tendency to want to control every aspect of our lives, and the only constant in the universe is change.
Come
So
on, brother.
trying to stick your heels in to keep one thing the regular thing is just that actually causes more stress than it creates stability. You know, the reality is everything in life changes constantly, and if you and it takes emotional intelligence and mental health to adapt in the moment. Anyone could try to be stalwart and be like, I'm not moving. This is my reality, and this is what I'm going to keep up. No, I mean you need to expect that something is going to change in a way that you may or may not like. But what you're seeing now is constantly happening. And something my mom tells me this all the time. Hey, ma, I love you. Is that everything is temporary.
Yeah.
When you're on the top of the hill, and at some point you're gonna be at the bottom, and back and forth. That's just the reality of life. If we go as a circle, yeah, see, you see it already. One day you're at the top, one day you're at the side, and then you're at the bottom. I mean, if anybody's in the tarot out there, you see the world card, you see a circle, and you see a person at the top, person at both sides, and the person at the bottom. Life is cyclical; it goes in circles, and one day again you're at the top, and they say you're descending, you're ascending and descending. That's
Right.
just a reality of life. So get used to it. And when we're able to allow ourselves to surrender enough to accept the reality that everything changes, then we can be at a state of peace. But the tendency for us human beings is we want to control everything. And we have control, but it's the control of ourselves and how we react to the things that transpire and how you do things. But you have no control over everything else. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you hold yourself accountable for your actions, when you're emotionally intelligent, emotionally aware, then you can react to things in ways that is constructive as opposed to destructive and controlling and limited.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we miss a lot. And I was going to say, I think I did say this, but a great treatment for depression and things and emotional issues and mental health issues is by getting outside and getting as much sun as you can.
You
A
said
lot
that
of people
last
who,
week. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
okay, yeah.
that's good. Say it again. That's good.
Yeah, okay.
That's
So
that
yeah,
seasonal
vitamin,
depression that we express.
right, exactly. And so actually, the funny thing is, during that time, I experienced a lot of depression as well. Um, so I would spend more time outside with my dogs, let them run around while I'm out. Whatever sun is out there, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it because I know that if I sit in this house
Right.
all day long, then I don't get that vitamin D implant for the day. You can take, a pill version of vitamin D, and it'll help. But getting that direct sunlight on your skin, it changes things. You could be in an emotional rut and go outside and feel that sun and catch that fresh breeze, and immediately your body, the cells, take a deep inhale and exhale, and releases all of that.
That's
And
so
then another
good.
thing we should do more often um, is make sure that we get healthy fats. We talked about this in the physical health show. Get your healthy fats. Nuts are great.
Mm,
Walnuts, pistachios, uh, almonds are great. Low salt, low salt or no salt. Um, Also, avocados are great. And if you eat meat, salmon is great.
yeah.
Omega 3 fatty acid, omega 6 fatty acid helps you with it encapsulates the neurons in the brain. So it's kind of like a wire. If you ever look at a wire to something that's plugged up, you have a covering over that. And in that, you have wires that are separated. You have the positive and the negative. If you don't have those things that help direct the energy goes all over the place
All
and
over
it's
the place.
wasted.
Right.
And it causes disease. Now, when you have those things, the healthy fats help with this, encapsulate the neurons in the brain that helps your brain fire off the way it's supposed to in a certain direction, as opposed to everything. Because the mental illness is the lack of um, controlled environment in the brain. The electricity of the brain is going all over the place,
Right.
as
Right.
opposed
Right. That's
to
good. That's good.
focusing in one
That's
in
good.
one way or the other. And so again, the way we eat, which affects the chemicals in the body. If you starve your body of healthy fats and you get constantly unhealthy fats like saturated fats and things of that nature, then it actually further causes that disease because you create a chemical imbalance in the body. So get those healthy fats. I promise you. Once you get those in, it, things will start to pick up. And then you get out in the sun, it helps with that. Like taking that time. And I even go outside sometimes, sit on the porch and journal. Get
Yeah.
that sun in, have those healthy fats, be it avocado, nuts, salmon, whatever, and I spend that time tuning back into me.
See, I love all that, man. That all does wonders for me. And we talked a lot about the emotional health, but
Yeah,
you just eloquently laid it out. Mental health treatments involve a broader range of interventions. So,
right.
including therapy, you talked about
Yep.
medications, psychoeducation that you just gave us, lifestyle
Yep.
changes that you just talked about.
Yep.
And depending on specific mental health conditions, you kind of broke that down and why we might have some of those mental
Right.
and health conditions. So,
Yeah.
man, that's good. And I
And
know
this
you're going to
was
dive deeper into that next week when we talk
Oh
about
yeah.
the recap on physical. I know you got to host a secret sauce for us
yeah,
next
that's
week.
secret
secret
sauce.
So
in,
Well,
secret
hey,
ingredients.
the
along those
secret
same lines,
sauce.
just really quickly before we do wind down and everything, how
Sure.
about this notion? Because, like I said, cancers, and I'm not coming back to astrology for a minute, are known as moon people and everything. So I think it's perfectly all right to sometimes get that
The
atmosphere change
moonlight.
in the evening time as well. So not
Yeah.
just the sunlight, but sometimes it's nice to go outside even in the evening time and get a little bit of
Right.
that moonlight kind of ambiance as well.
Right. But you realize though that the shine on the moon that we see is from the sun shining on it.
Exactly.
You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? So it's that balance.
Right.
And when you go out, so you're getting moon energy, and you're also getting the sun energy because
Right.
it's what highlights
Right.
or illuminates the moon. So yeah,
Yeah.
but I agree, absolutely agree.
That's good. That's good.
Moonlight is just as important as sunlight. Get out there and get that. get that healthy energy in it. You ever look up like, oh man, you could be depressed. You go outside and the sky is jet black, and all you can see is the stars
It's beautiful.
and the planets.
Peace.
That, yeah, it's so peaceful.
Mhm.
And I literally like I would turn off all music and just watch, and you'll if you stand out there long enough, you'll feel a vibration.
Right.
It's like the universe itself is humming. You
Yeah.
Mhm.
know, that is so peaceful. It's almost like being in the womb again.
Yeah. Man, what a good show again. I mean, I think
Yeah,
what a great recap of emotional mental health, a great differentiation of the two,
yeah.
which we're ending this recap actually on a physical note, which is exciting because next week, episode 6 is the recap of physical health. So, my boy Gene is already stepping us into what we're going into next week. And I don't know about you, but I'm just chomping at the bit. I mean, this man is full of wisdom and
Mhm.
knowledge
Oh
on
man,
physical health and things that we should be eating. And, he talked about sleeping, he talked about sunlight, he talked about moonlight, good fats, bad fats, exercising. Oh my God, are you guys excited about next week? And we get to be
oh
taught by,
yeah.
my boy Gene on physical health recap. So, I mean, it's going to be some great stuff.
And speaking of physical health
Yeah.
recap and all of that great stuff and everything along those lines, I've actually got a tease, Gene, because we'll probably go out in something that I saw that he was doing a lot of physical exercise. If you watch that video, and we're going to play the video to get us on out of here, he was definitely moving and shaking and getting some of that physical exercise even in the midst of that video and all along those lines. So I think we get to see
Oh
a
yeah.
display of his video prowess in this particular video once we close the show.
Mark, I do have to remind our audience this is our commitment, Gene and I, to them. Men, go get those exams. Go
Yeah.
connect with the doctor today. I mean, I know it's a Saturday.
Today.
If you can't get it done today, go Monday morning. Make that phone call, brothers.
Right.
Make that commitment to yourself. We are our brother's keeper. As he said, we're
Yeah.
dying too early. So go make that appointment today. Get that prostate exam done this week. Okay. I'm going to do mine. Gene, I know he's going to do his. Mark is going to do
Yep.
his. We're going to make those appointments and recap on that next week. So do
Yeah,
your thing,
definitely got
Mark.
to do those appointments. Got to get those appointments, and like you said, that's an important part. And even because we do know that, unfortunately, because of what happened recently, there are still some things that are field, and sometimes the appointments are not as easy to get as we would like. But there are clinics and other things that can at least give you that preliminary exam. So even if you can't get the full exam, at least get the process started with the
Right.
preliminaries and all along those lines, because you might not be able to get the full scope until later and everything, but at least get those preliminaries done, and we can do that now and everything. Because definitely you get the
Yeah,
preliminaries done.
I'm remembering from last week what you talked about on the preliminary. So now you just moved us from PG-13 to R. What's up?
Oh man. Yeah. So
It's
we're
all
gonna end
good.
the show with my new video. My band and I, a song called "Stand Up." It was originally a protest song speaking out against social injustice, but it's also an ode that we can use for this. We can stand up for our emotional and mental health. We need to be very aware, self-aware. Dive into yourself.
Right.
Stand up for
Right.
yourself. Be aware of your emotions, and you know you have the power to be in control and emotionally intelligent, um, and have healthy mental health because you know that you have tools. You have tools. You go to a therapist. You can go outside and get some fresh air, some sun, the moon, journal. Do the things that you know are going to help you become a and get a pro. Oh Lord, she
Look at
said get my
mama.
prostate check. Lord, Mama,
Look at
stop
mama.
it.
Oh, snap.
Well, get yours done first. You tell her what happens. Exactly. So yeah, get your prostate checked. Stand up for your physical health too. Yeah, yeah.
Before I hit the video, and I'm getting ready to hit it right now, but and just along those same lines, and your mom was joking because there are certain things that are male anatomy and everything. But let's be for very real. While we're getting the prostate check, men get those breasts checked as well, because we talk about the breast exam and the men do have breast issues as well. So just get the prostate checked, but get the breast checked as well, because that is an issue that crosses both genders and everything. So
on the
while
rise,
the prostate may not cross both genders, the definitely breast does cross both genders and everything. So definitely that is a issue that can even impact us. It might not be as profound as our lady friends, but it is something that is part of our body anatomy as well. So that's something that we need to check also.
Yeah, on the rise.
Remember, Richard Roundtree had breast cancer. So, you know, hey, I agree. If we need to put our breasts in there and sweep with the machine down on, I don't know how you do it. How you
okay.
Mammogram, brother.
On that note, I'm out, boy. This is your boy, Coach G. This has been a great show. I'm out.
And next show will be one day. So he's gonna be wearing that Kansas City stuff again next week too, because it'll be one day before the Super Bowl. So we'll be here next week, a day before the Super Bowl. So we'll see.
Get a good look at it now.
He might even have some more gear. Let's check out G's show song, and hey, I've enjoyed this conversation. So let's get on out of here.
The police took another life. Gunshots rang out, even though he had his hands held high. Yo, I'm sick and tired of walk my brother's short lines. Need to come together, set a plan, and then mobilize. Oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about all the that we're going through? Now stand up, shout out into the walls of Babel on the feet. Stand up, come on y'all, and let's make some history. Stand up, rise up and know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. Stand up y'all, we can do this, you and me. Monsanto monopolized the whole grocery line. So we all gon' have 12 toes, 3 thumbs, 3 eyes. If we keep being sheep, these wolves are gon' rob us blind. Let's occupy our mind space, cause the revolution won't be televised. Oh, what are we gon' do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about all the hell that we're going through? Now stand up, shout out into the walls of Babel on the feet. Stand up, y'all, we can do this, you and me. Stand up, rise up and know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. Stand up, y'all, we can do this, you and me. Oh, mercy me. The government should nurture and believe. When will all these wars be done? Hopefully before another moment has the money. Before another mother has the money person. Shout out into the walls of Babel on the feet. Stand up, come on y'all, and let's make some history. Stand up, rise up, you know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. Stand up, y'all, we can do this, you and me. Stand up, shout out into the walls of Babel on the feet. Stand up, come on y'all, and let's make some history. Stand up, rise up, you know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. y'all.